How does one deal with grieving and bereavement, the loss of a child? Greatest possible catastrophe that could happen to anyone. It's a question that I deal with consistently, and unfortunately, tragically, amongst us, around us, many others deal with it as well. Lo alechem, no one should ever know the experience. Recently, the answer is really that everyone has their own way, but recently someone sent me a video of a woman who lost two of her children, and she speaks about everything that helps her. Her entire focus is emunah, belief in what's called tchiyat hametim, the resurrection of the dead. Whatever that means, or however in Mirz Hashem it will pan out, I do not understand how it works, obviously. But I do believe in it. But she really, wholeheartedly, at least on this short video, subscribes to it, believes in it, embraces it. Tchiyat hametim, resurrection of the dead, anticipating when the dead will rise, that is what gets her through her grief. Now, everyone has their own way. But I thought to myself, and I said to myself, I don't agree with that approach. Only on a personal level. My approach is quite different. And that is, I would call it Tchiyat HaChayim. Of course, I anticipate Tchiyat HaMeitim. Halavai should be able to embrace and see Gila again, and even just hear a few words or exchange a conversation with her. That would be absolutely grand, and I'd give anything in the world for it. But my focus in this world now, while I am still alive, Ad 120 Shana, is Tchiyat HaChayim, resurrection of the living. Many people are living amongst us, and they need that resurrection. They need a reinvigoration. They need reminders of the value of life, of why we should continue living regardless of challenges, obstructions, trials that we are dealing with consistently on a daily basis, especially with everything that's going on around us. We need to remind ourselves of Tchiyat HaChayim. And that's really what Gila's way is about. Tchiyat HaChayim, the resurrection of the living, reminding people of the value of life, the greatest attribute and value that Judaism and other religions cherish and embrace. In this week's Parsha of Parshat Pinchas, Pinchas demonstrates that the greatest attribute, the greatest value that we have is life. Bekano et kinati, betocham, lachen emor hineni noten lo et briti shalom. Pinchas demonstrates a certain amount of extremism, radicalism. He kills, but only for the sake of infusing shalom, peace, for the sake of promoting and encouraging life. And it's interesting, right after this episode with Pinchas, the Torah confirms, Vayehi acharei hamagifa. There were 24,000 Jews who died as a result of what happened in their cohabitating with the women of Moab and their indecent behavior. 24,000 people perished. That's terrible. It's horrible. It's an absolute tragedy and travesty. And yet, afterwards it says, Vayehi achar hamagifa. Vayehi is always a word that demonstrates in the Torah tragedy. And the question is, achar hamagifa, if we're talking about now in the Torah, after the plague, after the 24,000 died, it shouldn't say Vayehi. After all, this is post-plague. Now we can anticipate the future. And one of the commentaries explains that it still says Vayehi. Why? Because had Pinchas shown up before the Jewish people had behaved indecently, the entire plague could have been avoided. It's not necessarily Pinchas's fault. I'm not sure if he was on the scene, but he only shows up on the scene once the Jewish people have behaved improperly. 24,000, as a result, die, perish. Vayehi achar hamagifa. The moment that we experience death, even if we're continuing onward, it is tragic. However, what the Torah is reminding us is that achar hamagifa, after the plague, we must continue to live. We must value and cherish the living. Once Pinchas performed his deed, lachen emor hineni noten lo et briti shalom. We can once again anticipate life, embrace life, and move forward from a travesty, a tragedy that might happen around us. This is the message that the Torah is giving us in this week's Parsha. To have Tchiyat HaChayim, to embrace life, to resurrect the living, and to somehow find a way, resilience, to face another day. This is the Jewish way, it is the Torah way, and it always will remain the Gila way. Shabbat Shalom.